And so that was also a bucket list kind of thing. Like I needed to find a wine window. So it was so fun to try it and to see other people do it as well.
I got to tell you, Sam, that may beat ringing the bell at Club 33 for me if you can just ring a little thing and then wine comes out. That's
and
amazing.
Wine appears.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Welcome back, everybody, to this week's live episode of the DCL Duo Podcast, brought to you by My Path Unwinding Travel, and also joined by two fabulous guests, one from My Path Unwinding Travel and one from a DCL Duo fandom. It's fan number one.
Number one fan,
Tracy. Right. Got Tracy joining us, and Chelsea, of course. And Chelsea. Welcome, Chelsea and Tracy. Before we dive into the discussion this evening, I do need to give a good shout out to our friends over at WDW Magazine, the sponsors of our live and bonus shows. If you've not had the chance to show them a little love, head over to wdw-magazine.com today. I think they are running low, as last we heard, on float test issues. Yes, but you can subscribe today to the magazine. You can take 10% off everything in their store by using code DCL Duo. That's code DCL Duo. And we heard from Stephanie when she was on, I think it was last week, that another edition of the float test kind of magazine, potentially the DCL magazine, might be coming soon. So head over there, check them out, show them some love for supporting the show. With that, Chelsea, Tracy, welcome on. Welcome back.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, you guys, I feel like spooky season is upon us. I know we're technically still in September, but here in the Pacific Northwest, we had a very rainy day. And so to me, it feels like it must be October. And so I decided it is October. So I decided
to be fair, it's only 2 days away. So you're getting close.
I know, but I feel like, it becomes my birthday month and it becomes spooky season. Even though I'm actually not a Halloween girl, but I am a Disney Halloween girl. Let's put it that way.
There you go.
Well, we've got some news to cover. There's just, I think, one news item, unless I missed something, and others can jump in if I did miss something. But actually today, there was a new Disney Visa promotion announced, and I'm going to ask Chelsea to chat about it and tell folks what it is and how you can take advantage of it if you are a Disney Visa card holder.
Yeah, so they kind of announced this promotion very softly. They didn't really tell a whole lot of people about it, just kind of showed up. And it is for very similar dates to what we saw with the previous 1 week promotion. A lot of the same restrictions where it falls with those guaranteed with restrictions rooms. It's up to 35% off select sailings, select dates, and then $250 in onboard credit. You do have to pay with your Disney Visa card. And I did confirm today that it actually is combinable to get that onboard credit if you are currently booked, so long as you are currently booked in a guarantee with restrictions room.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's also stackable on that third and fourth passenger sale at 50% off offer that was out last week, as you mentioned, as long as the dates line up. Now, there is a list of specific sailings going around the internet. I'm not going to read off the entire list because there are, more than a dozen, probably a dozen and a half, but they are only on the Magic, Dream, Fantasy, and Wish. So you can't do it on the Wonder, you can't do it on the Treasure, and obviously not on the Destiny. And these are only sailings through the end of the year, but they do include some Christmas sailings, I gotta say. The ones on the Wish are, and I mean, a lot of these are Halloween on the High Seas or Maritime themed, right? There's October ones on the Wish that are Halloween ones. And then, of course, Maritime ones in all of the November and December dates are pretty much Maritime until you get to right after Christmas. But yeah, even like December 21st on the Fantasy, December 19th on the Dream. So like, cruises that are on Christmas are getting promo, which is not a very common thing that we've seen on Disney before.
No, they tend to gatekeep those holiday sailings that run over Christmas with pretty much all of their discounts. They tend to have pretty significant blackout dates surrounding that time frame. So it was interesting for sure to see that.
Yeah, and the placeholders are always blacked out during those dates as well. And, we see that for spring break as certain spring break times as well. So yeah, it's very interesting to see such a broad discount. Well, we're here today to talk about the amazing Italy Adventures by Disney that Tracy and her husband Michael.
Spoiler alert, Samantha. Jeez.
If people didn't watch the promo or see the promos on social media, or they're living under a rock, but yeah, Tracy and Michael went on this amazing Adventures by Disney adventure. It was their first Adventures by Disney adventure. And Chelsea just happens to be their lovely travel agent. And so we wanted to bring Chelsea on.
It's like we
We wanted to bring Chelsea on. As people know, we've had Chelsea on a couple times before. We've talked itineraries with her at least twice. And we wanted to bring Chelsea on to help explain to our listeners how My Path Unwinding Travel and your travel advisor can add value to a trip like an Adventures by Disney, where the Adventures by Disney portion is already sort of planned out for you by Disney, right? There's not a lot of planning of activities that goes on pre-adventure because it's all planned. But where Chelsea and others can add value is maybe you're doing something before or after your adventure. So Chelsea, if you give us maybe one or two examples of stuff you were able to book for Tracy and Michael for this amazing adventure that they did over in Europe.
Yeah. So specifically for Tracy and Michael, when they booked their Adventures by Disney, they knew that they wanted to extend their trip at the end. They were celebrating an anniversary. They wanted to extend their trip and have this amazing European adventure. And so they ended up wanting to leave their Adventures by Disney at the end and fly to an entirely different country. And so they flew to Paris and spent a lovely, Tracy's lovely Disneyland Paris years, which I love. Spend 3 extra days in Paris, and I was able to help arrange private transportation for them to get them from the airport to their hotel and back to the airport, as well as a couple of tours while they were there, as well as some tickets for them to get to Disneyland Paris. And I believe one of their excursions that I booked for them, which I believe they loved a lot, was a private walking tour for them, which I believe was a half-day walking tour. So
7 miles is all I can tell you for sure.
Oh my goodness. I kept them very busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you also gave them a great hotel. I know that they loved whatever the hotel was that you recommended. Do you remember either one of you, what was the hotel that you recommended?
Yeah, it was the Grand Powers in Paris, which is in a really great location. It was fairly close to, the center of Paris, where they wanted to be, near a rail station that was walking distance. And, we have a personal relationship with the general manager there, and we know that he really takes great care of his clients. So we were excited to send them there.
Awesome. Now, Tracy, you got to give us the Paris, the quick review. How was the hotel? How was the private walking tour? We don't need to talk about Disneyland Paris. I know that wasn't as good as Disney World or Disneyland in California. Let me just put that out there.
So we actually, I mad props to Chelsea, because we were so nervous after the ABD because we didn't have Disney taking care of us. And we should have not been nervous because Chelsea took care of everything. So we had like a black car service pick us up from the airport with the guy with the iPad with our name on it, and he drove through the ridiculous traffic of Paris, which 0 out of 10 do not recommend. The driving portion, I would never drive there.
You driving in Paris, not the driving service.
Yeah, I'm not driving. The guy who drove us there was great. This fancy big car of his didn't have a scratch on it. I don't know how, but it didn't. So the first night we actually did a river cruise down the Seine River. And it was, the food was okay, but the view was spectacular. And the captain of the boat actually stopped the boat right in front of the Eiffel Tower for the 11 o'clock sparkle. So we got great video and pictures of that. So that was a great way to start our Paris trip. And then the next day was our trip with Ruben. Highly recommend Ruben. He was great, Chelsea. He was absolutely fantastic. Easy to understand. His English was really good. And he knew, he was a young guy. Like I would guess he was probably maybe 26, 28, maybe like a young guy, but he knew everywhere he was taking us. There was a metro strike that day. So only like one or two of the lines were running. So he had already adjusted our touring for that. That's why we didn't get any up close and personal pictures under the Eiffel Tower during the day because we couldn't really get on that metro to get there. So but we walked everywhere. We hit the Louvre, we hit the Arc, we hit Notre Dame. He took us to this beautiful garden. Like everywhere. He took me to Angelina's for the best hot chocolate you'll ever have, which was amazing. And so that tour was fantastic. And then we had directions on how to get our tickets and get on the metro to get to Disneyland Paris. And that was our last day, was Disneyland Paris. So overall, it was seamless. And the Grand Powers people, mad props. They had heart balloons on either side of our bed. We had a bottle of wine in our room with a lovely card congratulating us on our anniversary. And so, they were spectacular. We walked in the door. They welcomed us. Would you like a glass of champagne? Yes, I would. So overall,
that's the right way to start.
Props for everything. It was so lovely.
Oh, yay. I love that. Well, fantastic. Well, Chelsea, if folks are looking to book with you specifically, of course, they can always go to mypathandwinding.com/DCL Duo. But if they want to reach out to you specifically, Chelsea, tell us what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so obviously you can go to our website. We do also have a DCL Duo specific email, which is dclduo@mypathandwinding.com. And so we can all take referrals through there. If you want to reach out to me specifically, I'm all over social media. I'm in the DCL Duo Facebook groups all of the time. So you can reach me there. Also at my pathandwinding.com email address. This is Chelsea@mypathandwinding.com.
Amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Chelsea. We will say good night to you and let you, you can of course watch on YouTube if you like. And
I'll
we
be
will.
there.
All right.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I'm sorry.
No, you can't. You can stay in the background. Well, we're going to pull up Tracy's PowerPoint and get started talking about this amazing Italy ABD. But thank you so much, Chelsea. And I know on behalf of Tracy and Michael, I'm going to say thank you for booking them on such an amazing vacation.
5 stars. Highly recommend.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for
Chelsea.
having me.
See ya.
All right, Tracy, we are going to get started here with your beautiful PowerPoint that you prepared, which I got to always give shout out to Ashley Norton, who started this trend. She is a trendsetter. She's in the chat. And so I always have to shout out to her whenever I see her in the chat. Yeah, so the DCL Duo Senior, Tracy, as we love to call you and you like to call yourselves, but I'm going to call you Adrift Together as well because that's your new-ish Instagram handle. So Italy and the Amalfi Coast 2025. Tell us what made you decide to book this adventure, having not booked an Adventures by Disney adventure before. I know you're going on the river cruise with us next year, but why did you choose to do an Adventures by Disney and why a land tour of Italy?
Well, we had talked about Italy for a long time. That was like kind of a bucket list place for me because, and most of your listeners know I'm a very picky eater, and pizza is one of the things I will eat all day long, every day. So in my head, Italy is pizza and wine and pasta, all things that I love to eat. And I had heard a lot of things about how beautiful the countryside was. And so that was kind of on our bucket list. And we chose obviously Adventure by Disney because, like you said at the beginning of the show, it's always done. Everything was done for us, which is so nice. Like there was never a worry about whether I was in the right place at the right time. Did I have a ticket? Did I need a ticket? It was all taken care of. So this particular Adventure by Disney, to answer Ashley's, it wasn't an adult only ABD. So there were no kids on this one. And Michael and I talked about it, honestly, for this particular one, at least our children, I can't speak for anybody else's kids, but our 4 kids, when they were younger, I don't know that they would have loved it. I did talk to the ABD guide and asked him like what the differences were between like one with kids and one without kids. And he said they definitely do try, like, especially the museums and things like that, to do things like scavenger hunts and things to kind of get them active and into it more, because it is a lot of walking. This particular one was a lot of walking. And we did a lot of museums for short periods of time, an hour or 2 tops, and hit the highlights of those museums. So I don't know that our kids would have appreciated it. I'm sure there are other kids out there that would, but this was a adult only. And it was just one of those things that just looked like the timing was right for us. Our youngest daughter is out of undergraduate and not playing volleyball anymore. And after 16 years of watching her play volleyball, I needed a distraction. This was it.
Now, I know you were a little bit nervous about doing a vacation like this because you and Michael cruise a lot, and cruising is a very different vacation than doing a land tour. What were your biggest fears going into this?
I think for me, it was what specifically we were going to be doing, not necessarily how much walking, although I will say we walk between 5 and 7 miles a day. On average. It's a lot of, for me, vacation usually, like, with DCL, can be relaxing. And I just didn't know how I was going to like something that was a bit less relaxing. Not that it wasn't fun or good or anything, because it was fantastic and I would do it again. But it was just so different from what we generally do that I just was nervous about it. In the end, it was all for naught because it was a great time and it's just a different vacation.
Yeah.
And if you go into it with that mindset, I think that really helps as well.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. Like if you go in expecting a relaxing vacation on any Adventures by Disney adventure, you are going to be smacked in the face with reality because that's not what an ABD is. It's a lot of going in and sightseeing a lot of different things. And there are active activities built in as we'll talk about. And even, obviously even more so probably on some of the family focused ones. I will say even the family friendly ABDs, they do skew towards older kids. These are, I think in general, ABD is not for families with young children. They're for families with older adult, like older elementary and older. But I would say really like middle school and older is probably your sweet spot. Lots of teenagers on the family ones, or maybe, sort of some preteens on some of those family ones, but not like, you're not going to see a lot of 8-year-olds, even though technically an 8-year-old is allowed to go on an ABD. And I wouldn't generally recommend it unless you have an 8-year-old that's really into like history and museums and things like that. But let's jump in. You guys traveled from Detroit. Tell us the travel day.
Yeah, so we traveled from Detroit. We flew out about 10 p.m. So we did the red eye. We flew into Paris, and we did have like a 5-hour layover. And fortunately for us, because we did do the pods, which we had never done before. And that was great because we did get a couple hours of sleep, but that also allowed us to stay in the Delta Sky Lounge, which was great because then we could get some breakfast, we could have a croissant. And then from there we flew into Naples. And then from Naples, we were transported to Sorrento, to our, the hotel. And so we got there during the day, then their daytime, but it was the day before the ABD started, but we still went to the hotel. We stayed there. We met our guides. And we basically went to the rooftop bar and like went to bed because it was I think I counted like 17 hours of travel or something. It was, by the time you have the layover and everything, it was a long day.
Sam?
Oh, I was going to have you jump in, Brian.
No, I'm advancing the slides here. So
I know.
Now I got to do my standard for everyone watching at home or for everyone listening at home later. Please come to YouTube. You can see all the fabulous photos that Tracy's sharing. Tracy Sorrento, is this on your adventure start day?
This evening of this day was when we had our welcome dinner. So this was our pre-adventure adventure. So Michael and I adventured out of the hotel and wandered around in Sorrento, not really knowing where we were going, but we just, kind of took a little, we did talk to the adventure guides and they told us like, oh, go to Lemon Street. Okay, that sounds good. Anything and everything you could possibly want that is lemon decorated, lemon ceramic, lemon soap, limoncello, lemon perfume, you name it, it was there. And it was like a massive like street. The stores are about this big. They're teeny tiny little stores, but this particular picture of the limoncello display, that is how the whole store was with all of the things. I was terrified I was going to bump something and like break all the ceramic.
Knock it all over.
Yeah, exactly.
If you knock one of these bottles, it's like what are those
Dominoes.
things? Dominoes. Thank you. Yeah, tick 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 tick, and they all fall down. So you're saying if you have a kitchen that is lemon themed, like this would be your heaven, right? Like you could get like the bowls and like the dish towels, the spatulas.
If you have a lemon themed kitchen, can you send us a photo? Thank you so much. I feel like that was the most bizarre connection to me. If you have a lemon themed kitchen, okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah. I mean, that's what she was saying, like the lemon bowls and things like that.
Everything.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Yeah,
it was really nice.
It would be fun.
Yeah, so we just wandered around until it was time to go back to the hotel and get ready for the welcome dinner.
Nice.
We did maybe stop and get a pizza, which if Sylvia is watching or is watching later, Sylvia was our Italian ABD guide, and she taught us one very important thing about Italy. One does not share pizza. I did not know this was a rule. They do not believe in like half pepperoni, half mushroom pizzas. And you don't like Michael and I got a pizza and we cut it in half and I ate half and he ate half. And it was delicious. It was delightful. It was at this Il Pazzo Ristorante Pizzeria. It was delightful. Had a glass of wine. And we went back to the hotel and we told Sylvia, yeah, we got a pizza. And she's like, well, and we said, yeah, we shared a pizza. And she looked at us. And the next time we shared a pizza, we mentioned it again. And she was like, we don't share pizza in Italy. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she and her husband have 2 kids. And she said, when they go off for pizza, they each get their own pizza. And I mean, they're like 12, 14-inch pizzas. I'm like, don't even bring it up.
Do they take it home if there's leftovers?
Yeah.
So the other half of the DCL Duo Senior is saying she let it slide once, but the second time we told her we shared ... So there must be a story there.
I wonder if everybody orders their own, like, well, yes, they don't do half and half, right? So that's different. Like in the States, obviously you can do like half of a pizza with certain toppings and half of a pizza with other toppings. They don't mix toppings there. Like that's just not done, right? So like maybe if you want different pizzas, but if you're just getting like a margarita pizza, why can't you? Yeah. I mean, you and I could share a margarita pizza anytime, Tracy. I don't see.
Michael is
not in Italy.
Michael's also popped in to say she also told us no leftovers. Is that a eat it all at once and on one sitting, or is that leave behind what you don't eat? Yeah.
It was crazy. She was very, very like, we don't share pizza. Like that's just a no-no. I was like, okay, we got it. We're on it.
Wow. Okay.
And then of course we had our first gelato that night.
Yeah. All right. Well, so tell us, was the welcome dinner then that night, or was the welcome like it wasn't the night you got in, or was it?
Correct. It was the next night. Yeah.
Next night. Okay.
Yeah.
So, tell us what a welcome dinner looks like.
Okay. So they basically had it in the hotel and they had tables of 8 for, all of us. And that's the only night that you have like a seat that you're supposed to sit in, or like, a table that you're supposed to be sat at. And so we ended up getting there. Well, we got our pins. This was our first pins. There's a pin every day, and it was so fun. The way they presented them each day was a little bit different every day, and they were kind of funny. So I won't spoil all of the surprises, but they had some pretty funny ways to give us the pins. So we were running just a little bit late, and we got down to dinner, and this will lead into the next slide, I believe. And when I sat down to dinner, the people next to me introduced themselves. This was Helene, this was Sally, this was Judy. And then I turned and looked directly across the table from me, and I said, "And you're Susan." It was Susan Lucci, Emmy winner, actress, like sitting across the table with me. Like, my little fangirl heart, I tried so hard to not fangirl out and just be cool. So it was a big surprise. We did not know that. And as it turned out, she was traveling with the other three ladies, and we had 2 Emmy winners with us on our ABD. We had a retired Disney exec on our ABD. We have somebody who works for Disney on our ABD. We had an animator on our ABD. So we felt very underwhelming.
Listen, you always like to say you are celebrity adjacent, right? But the problem with that is you rely on us for the celebrity part, and I'm just going to put this out there: we're the DCL Duo, not celebrities, not at all.
Weirdos with mics.
But now you are celebrity adjacent because now you're friends with Susan Lucci. So you're really like
with Susan
Tracy.
Lucci.
I mean,
right?
you just kind of, you just said, bye DCL Duo. Like, you're like D-list. And so I'm jumping up to A-list Emmy winner. I gotta say, we got this text from Tracy while she was sitting at this dinner with this sneaky picture. If Susan's watching, I'm sorry, Susan, but Tracy took a little picture and she's like, "Look who's sitting across from me." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's Susan Lucci."
See, and I'm Hugh Bonneville from Notting Hill. Meeting, what's her name? Meeting
Julia
Roberts.
Yeah, Julia Roberts.
So what do you do?
So what do you do?
I was surprised, actually. Michael knew who. I figured he wouldn't have a clue, but his mom they used to watch, so he knew who she was right away too. But the funny part is our guides did not know who she was.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of, I was like, because I wanted to ask her for a picture, and I wanted to check because I thought that the guides would know if, it was okay or not. Like, maybe she didn't want, and that's fine. Like, that's cool. And they were like, "Why are you asking us?" And I was
Tracy,
like, "Oh, you don't know."
It's because everyone on an Adventures by Disney is a VIP themselves. So there you go. That's they treat you all like VIPs. So
that is true.
That.
You are, if you are on an ABD, you are treated as a VIP pretty much wherever you go. Well, let's jump into the actual touring. This is a 5-day tour, right? So, Brian, you're going.
I got it. I got it handled.
All right. Oh, sorry, 7 days. Okay, a 7-day tour. Okay, so we're gonna have to go through things quicker because we spent too much time. Sorrento and Capri. Tell us about this day.
So Sorrento, we did a walking tour of Sorrento. We got to see some of the churches, the cathedrals. We got to hear a lot of stories, mythological stories. They took us to this beautiful garden. I will absolutely butcher this name. Giardina Augusto.
And that's the next slide, right?
Muy bueno. Muy bueno, Tracy. Muy bueno.
Brian, I think you need to. Brian, you need to move slides.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Calm down. There we go.
Yeah. So the garden on the right-hand side there. Yeah, that was the garden that we got to walk through. And we got an additional tour guide, Luciana, and she was fantastic. And she was telling us all sorts of stories about this garden and just the history behind it and all the things. And then we went on a catamaran, and they took us out into the water, and we went backwards into like a grotto, like, this cave, which there was a little teeny boat that went in before us, and we're in this big catamaran, and I'm just looking like there's not a chance that and then he turns it around and we're going in backwards. And I was like, this, like, people had to duck. Like, it was, but it was
so
so cool to be
This
in
is
there.
this is the one of the 7 wonders of the world, the Blue Grotto.
Blue Grotto.
Yeah. And
it was so cool, but I was like terrified because I'm like, this boat's not going to fit. Like,
Sam's hiding from the camera right now because we went to the Blue Grotto when we were down in that area of Italy, and Sam did not get along with the waves and left, some of herself and her lunch in the Blue Grotto. So, yeah. Yes, your lovely co-host Samantha has upchucked in one of the 7 wonders of the world. So there you go.
That is true. That is true. I cannot
so I
tell
went swimming there.
I mean, the fish have eaten it. It was 20 years ago, Tracy. Don't worry.
Once we got out of the grotto, then the captain took us to an area that was, he could like throw out an anchor, and they're like, you want to get in? Jump in, like jump off the boat. And so I would say probably about half of us came prepared for that and did get in the water, and it was delightful. It was warm. It was the saltiest water I've ever been in. Like I got out, I literally felt like I could just, Oh yeah. I noticed I still have a pool noodle because I don't float. So, but I felt like I was brushing the salt off me after I dried off. Like that's how salty it was.
It's exfoliation. People pay good money for that in New York, So
that's right.
I know, right? It was an amazing experience. This was one of the things that I was looking forward to very much, was this opportunity, because you know me, I'm not a big risk taker. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I don't care how cold it is. And then we did the second thing that I wanted to do in Italy, which was make pizza.
Okay, if the pizzas in Italy are this size, Tracy, now I can understand the no sharing, no leftovers. I think we can polish that off.
That might look small, Brian, but it's actually the size of a large dinner plate.
Okay, well, yeah, I can still knock it out.
It's like a good 12-inch pizza.
Yeah, but it's still, the thing is that they don't put a lot of toppings on in Italy, and the pizza crust is thin. Like I could definitely house that whole plate of pizza myself, like easy. I mean, I might leave like one small piece over, but not enough to make leftovers worthwhile, probably. Right. So I can see where your tour guides were coming from. Like I would eat that whole pizza myself. I wouldn't share that one either. Yeah.
So this particular farm that they took us to, they make their own mozzarella. They showed us how to make mozzarella. They showed us how to make ricotta. They showed us how to make limoncello. They talked to us about their olive oil, how they squeeze the olives and all that stuff. And then we used their ingredients to make our pizza. And we did get to throw pizza in the air. There is video. I'm not very good, but Michael's very good at that. So,
Michael's the cook of the house.
I know, he really is. And then they popped it in a 700-degree oven, and 2 minutes later, our pizza was done. So this was, and they had several different kinds of wine for us there.
Oh, did we lose Tracy? Oh, we lost. I'm not sure what's going on here. I can't hear you either, Sam.
Oh, sorry. I was on mute. Sorry. I didn't realize I was on mute. But no, Tracy is frozen. Hopefully Michael is watching, and we know Michael is watching because he got back from he was reffing volleyball. That's why Michael wasn't on with us. But hopefully Michael can help Tracy and maybe log out and then log back in.
Yes. I'm gonna take us back to our 2cam view for a second while we sort out the technical difficulties. Yes. And we will go from there. But so Sam, while we're waiting, how long did Tracy and Michael spend in Paris after? Because I'm going to toss it out to our community that we are wrestling with the decision as to whether we go to Paris after our ABD next year. But it feels like a lot to try and put Paris and maybe a stop at Disneyland Paris in the last few days of our own adventures by Disney. But
so they did, as she recounted, they did basically the first day was just kind of check-in and dinner in Paris. So let's call that a third of a day. They did one full day touring Paris, but they didn't go into any museums. Oh, here she is. There we are.
I don't know what happened.
No
you
worries.
guys froze.
So they did one full day touring, but they didn't go inside any museums. And then they did one full day at Disneyland Paris, and they did the train there and back that day. They didn't stay at Disneyland Paris. So they did, let's call it 2.5 days, or really 3 days, because I guess they left the next day. They had to get to the airport. So, the question for us, for Brian and I, is that enough time for us to do Paris and Disneyland Paris? Because we are debating with our Adventures by Disney.
Let's return to our regularly scheduled programming about Adventures by Disney. But I'm putting out to the fan community what is it? I think we have like five nights that we could pop down to Paris and maybe see Paris and Disneyland Paris. But we're a little nervous. That's a lot to add into the trip. So if you have thoughts, we want to hear them. But Tracy.
Yes. Well, it's funny. Ashley was asking to hear about our Italy trip from 20 years ago, by the way. So maybe we'll do, I don't remember it that well, but maybe we'll do a separate bonus show on that at some point, Ashley.
Where there's one stop here that Tracy and Michael did that we absolutely fell in love with in Italy. And so we'll get there in a second. All right. Pizza. You made pizza. And then next day you're at Positano and Amalfi?
Correct. So then the next day we were bussed up in a harrowing drive up curvy roads, up mountains in a giant bus that there is absolutely no room for. And stop signs and middle lines are just opinions. They're not law, for sure.
They're guidelines, not rules. Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely guidelines. So we went up to Positano. We did a bunch of photo ops up on this beautiful area. We went to a black beach. We did a lot of shopping. The picture of myself and the sandals and the gentleman there, that's Carmino. And Carmino is a 3rd generation sandal maker. He had a little shop, and Luciana told us that was the place to go if we wanted to have sandals made. So I went there, and he made, you pick out like what you want the top to look like, whatever. And then he puts it together. He sizes it to your foot. He tightens it. He's a 3rd generation. His grandfather started the business, and he actually pulled up on his phone a black and white photo from a newspaper of his grandfather sitting in the exact same spot that we were sitting in, making sandals for somebody.
Okay. Well, but the real question is, Tracy, were they comfortable?
Yeah,
they're actually very comfortable. They don't have any arch to them, so I'll warn you about that. If you need like arch, I wouldn't wear them for long periods of time walking. I will wear them for pretty.
Here's a question I want to ask you, Tracy, because you mentioned something about the buses and things like that. So, land-based ABD is very different than the Adventures by Disney River Cruise that we did, in that you get on the ship, you unpack, and they kind of move you from place to place. And, they still bus you around and you get to see sights, but you're coming back to the same place every night. Was it a pain? Was it annoying to have to kind of pack and repack and, move around? Or how much moving around did you do? You only did one?
We only moved one time other than Paris.
That's great.
So that was another reason why we chose this one, was because we didn't want to have to pack up every night. Like, we felt like that would be a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like that would take away from what, there's not a ton of free time. You have free time, but some days you're just tired of walking 7 miles and you just want to go to bed. And so some of that free time, and we didn't want to spend it packing. So we only moved one time. We were in this spot for 3 days, 3.5, 4 days. And then we moved to Florence, and we were there for the rest of the trip. So we didn't move again until we went to Florence, or till Paris after that. So
kudos to your personal photographer, by the way, Tracy. I saw a lot of great shots. A lot of good use of portrait mode, Michael. Way to go. So yes, these are some great shots. All right. So we're in Panza Amalfi, pastries for lunch. Yes. And so
basically we had...
Wait, can I jump in with one question? Ed is asking a question. Did they have any laundry facilities in the hotels where you could either do self-laundry or send out your stuff for laundry?
There might have been send out, but I didn't see any papers in the room for that. I did ask somebody at one of the 2 hotels we were at, and they said, no, there was no laundry available. So we packed as though, because we don't do laundry on vacation, Sam, unlike some people I know and love. So we packed accordingly to not have to do laundry.
I'll say this is, if you're doing one of these trips, one thing to look at as well is not just a hotel, but there's like apps now for different countries, where like in the UK, we used an app called Laundry Heap or something like that, I think at one point. And basically they you just give them your laundry. They take it off and do it, fold it, and bring it back to the hotel. And so there are some apps out there if you need to do laundry and you're staying put for, I would say, at least 2 days. Because
there was a couple.
I did have one experience. I did have one experience in Ireland where they did this, and they brought back my stuff, and I was supposed to be leaving on a flight the next day, and they did not bring back any of my pants. None of my pants were there. I was like, whoa, like I'm heading home tomorrow, so you need to find these. But yeah, so but those things do exist. Sorry, Tracy, go ahead.
Well, that's okay. There was a couple on our Dennis and Laura, and they had been on this was towards the end of a 3.5 week trip through Europe. And they went out, they found a laundromat and went out and did laundry. I do remember them saying that now, but it was not in the hotel. They had to take their laundry somewhere else.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm assuming the pastries in Italy were amazing.
Yes. Actually, we really enjoyed all of the food in Italy more than Paris. Other than the croissant. I would say the croissant I had in Paris was really good, but the food in general, we really liked in Italy. And France, we were kind of like, it's okay. I mean, it was all right, but this particular place we had like a couple of hours and there really wasn't anything in this area that I wanted to shop for. So we were like, well, let's grab some lunch someplace. And then Sylvia told us about this place to go to get these pastries, and she highly recommend this lemon pastry. So we had pastries, and then I had this cute little hot chocolate over here in a little cup. And so we sat on the street and we enjoyed this, and people watched, which is what they do in Europe, both in France and Italy. It's a lot of sitting and watching and chatting. And a couple from Germany came up. We had 2 extra seats at our table, and they asked if they could sit with us. And we were like, yeah, sure. And they weren't super talkative, but they had a snack, and then they moved on. And it was really a lovely way to spend, a couple of hours.
CT wants to know if you managed to find a souffle.
CT. I wish.
Opportunity.
Wait for the destiny, CT. I'm waiting for the destiny.
All right. Now we're at Terrazza della Serene.
So the first night of our ABD, the guides gave us a paper, and they said, we are going to book you some reservations and you have choices. And so there were several different days. I think there were 3 or 4 different dates where we could pick from, let's say, 3 different places. And so this was one of the places. This was on the Bay of Naples, and we chose it because it was on the bay. And it was, we figured the sun would be setting. We got to pick like our time, like, do we want a 7, 7:30, 8, 8:30? And so we chose this particular restaurant, and it was fantastic. We got to watch the sunset over the bay. There were 2 weddings going on next to us, and one of the weddings had fireworks to take pictures with the bride and groom, which was right next to our table. And the fireworks caught on fire and almost caught the bride's dress on fire.
Oh my goodness. Oh gosh.
And the funniest part was, we were sitting there, we were far enough away that as long as the fire didn't get bigger, we were safe. There was like a planter between us, but they're like trying to pull her dress away from the fire, but nobody was like running over with water to dump it. And they just let it just burned for like a long time. And I was sitting there like, should I get up and dump my water on it? Like, I don't know what the proper international thing to do here is.
Well, they don't want to waste the wine, Tracy. So, you gotta.
Well, you don't want the wine. Yeah. Well, so I'm going to ask a question about the dinners, and this is more about inclusivity as far as what's included and what's not included. Our experience from the river cruise is pretty much all of the meals were included, save for maybe like one lunch. I remember there was even like one lunch that was on your own, but they gave you cash to, spend. How was it with your ABD? Because this was obviously, they made a reservation for you. They gave you a choice of, you said, like, 2 or 3 restaurants. And so were these meals included, and were most of your meals included, or were lunches sort of, lunch is sort of the one, usually this question mark. I see you got notes.
I made myself a sticky note because I was like, I know this is going to be something Sam's going to ask. All of our breakfasts were included because it was a breakfast buffet in each hotel. So all of our breakfasts were included, and 2 lunches were included and 3 dinners. Anything else we did was on our own. So like this particular dinner was on our own.
I will tell
so
you.
we did pay for this.
I will tell you, breakfast buffets for breakfast in Italian hotels, sleeper hits for some amazing food. We had some of the most amazing cheese I've ever had in my life. The most amazing
Brian's favorite coffee.
My most amazing cup of coffee ever was from a buffet in an Italian hotel in, I think it might have been Naples, actually.
Rome. I thought it was in Rome.
I think it was in Naples, but who knows? Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the breakfasts were really good. They had tons of variety. The first hotel we were at, they had this, they just called it vanilla cake. And it was just this piece of cake. I'm like, for breakfast? And so I got one the first day and I was like, oh, now I know why we're eating this. It was delicious.
All right. And Tracy seems to have sussed out the best gelato in Sorrento.
Yes, this is the place. It's called Rockies, even though it looks to me like Racky, but it's Rockies. And we went there 3 times. It was that good.
Wait, how long were you there that you managed to go there 3 times?
3 days.
That's fair. We ate the same restaurant in Capri 3 days in a row, so there you go. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so it was
good,
really good.
Right.
And the thing is, somebody mentioned, I think it was on maybe my Facebook, I'm not sure. I had posted a picture like this and they said, oh, I could eat way more ice cream than that. That's such a tiny little ice cream. Oh, no, you can't, because it is so rich and creamy that is plenty.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. That's the thing people don't realize about gelato. And I mean, like, it's super rich and super creamy and super flavorful. And so while, I mean, you could eat more than that. That is a small amount, but like, you don't need a lot. I feel like you can have like 1 scoop of gelato versus like 3 scoops of ice cream, maybe, because it is so rich and creamy and delicious. Yeah. I'm a big sorbet fan that you can eat more of because it doesn't have the creaminess. But yeah, but I have to say I'm jealous. Yeah.
This place was absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend.
Nice. All right. Next up is Pompeii.
So that morning of Pompeii was the day we had to have our luggage out. We put our luggage out at like 6:45, went to breakfast. And before we got on the train to go to Florence, our luggage was already there. They had taken it, thrown it in a van somewhere. And I don't know how it got there, but I thought it would go on the train with us. It did not. So I am not a history person at all, but this absolutely blew my mind. Pompeii was massive. I will tell you, it's a lot of uneven walking. There is very little shade. That picture shows some shade, but there was very little shade. We did have one person that wasn't feeling great because of the heat. It was very warm that particular day. But we had another special guest guide who walked us through this area, talked to us about this was a home, and this is how you can tell it was a home. It was a place of business. This was a bath of sorts. This is how they got hot water here. And then we talked a lot about, we took some pictures with Mount Vesuvius behind us, and then we talked about like how far away that actually is and how far the ash had to travel in a big pile to get there and drop on this giant city. And I'm not into history at all, but I was absolutely blown away by this particular part of the tour. It was amazing. The terrazzo flooring and the tile done in such artsy ways. And the fact that they built this so long ago when they didn't have AI or anything, you know what I mean? Like it's just, my mind was blown.
They didn't have excavators, right? Like it's amazing. And it's amazing to see how much is actually there, like how much they've been able to uncover and how well it was preserved from, of course, the volcano. And so it is really cool to see like the what they could build with just more simple construction tools than what we have today, right? I think it's a really cool thing. I mean, the ruins in several parts of Italy are fantastic. Pompeii is, of course, the main attraction, I think, for most people. If you go to Italy, that is one of those, things you want to see. That along with maybe the Colosseum, right? Like 2 of the, the Roman Empire was pretty incredible in their and it was
interesting to me because, because it was an ABD, we, again, like the museums, we didn't spend hours and hours and hours there. So if you want to do like a deep dive, the ABD might not be, good enough. If you might want to make that a separate day, like afterwards or something, if you really want to do a deep dive, or if there's a museum that you just really want to do a deep dive in. We did, an hour or two in all of these different places, which for me was perfect because it gave me a little taste. And then if there's something else that I really want to, dive into, that's another trip. Oh, darn. But yeah, so I was fascinated. I didn't think that I would really care that much about Pompeii. But it was definitely worth the trip for me for that.
Yeah. Well, tell us about traveling, obviously, between these cities, because you've got this great photo of Michael sitting eating lunch. Tell us about this was the high-speed train. So this is not regular Train Italia that Brian and I still commiserate about. Yeah. How was the comfort level of the train?
It was great. Some people thought it was a little warm in there. I was very comfortable. The seating was, there was some forward-facing seating, and then there was some seating that I was like forward and backwards, so you could put like a group of 4 together and talk, or like Michael and I were together. So that was really nice. There was an area you could open a table up if you wanted to, put a computer on it, or you wanted to watch something. We had box lunches that were provided for us at the train station, and we took those on with us. It had this really great sandwich with this great bread. It had a chocolate muffin. Michael, jump in and tell me what else it had.
That's okay. We don't need the details on the box.
I don't even know what else.
I do want to highlight Europeans. Like even the train food is good. Like I had this happen.
Well, but this was a box lunch. This wasn't the train food, Brian. This is what they brought with them. This is like this ABP
but it was from a place in the train station that was Italian. It wasn't from Five Guys or Starbucks or McDonald's. But I did think of you guys when we saw the Starbucks.
Of course.
And did I go get a Coke Zero at the McDonald's in Italy? Yes, I did.
Yeah. And Michael is mentioning you guys did have business class seats for the train. So you were in probably a nicer car. I would say if other people said it was warm, because Tracy, you are cold.
I'm always cold. I know.
You're always cold. So I know this about Tracy. She's always cold. So if other people say it was warm on the train.
I mean, nobody was sweating to death, but they were just like, they could have turned the air up a little bit. But we were booking like 300 kilometers an hour. Like that thing was moving.
Yeah. So tell us about this cool looking hotel you guys were at.
So this was the hotel we stayed at in Florence. I don't know how to pronounce it. So that's why I typed it in there. And that tower.
Brunelleschi.
Okay, I'll go with that. The tower actually was like, part of the hotel. So Michael actually thinks that our room was in the back side of that. We couldn't really tell from our window, but again, another like old building that you would think like, oh, this is going to be not great. Our room was giant. We had king size beds everywhere. The bathroom was big. Every bathroom had a heated towel rack. Every bathroom had a bidet. I mean, there was so much it was just beautiful. And then the second picture on that slide is actually the basement of this hotel. And it was actually in the old days used as a woman's jail.
Wow.
Just saying. Yeah.
Wow.
So what that picture of right there is like a bathtub, or like the Roman bath kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But there was an area where they had pieces of pottery that they had excavated from this site. And then they had like the areas, and they were like, this was the part that was like a woman's jail. And we were like, good deal. Like that. So we toured that, and then we had a welcome dinner there that night as well.
Gotcha.
So that was another one of the dinners that was included.
Nice. And so that was that day, was it mostly a travel day, or were there, I mean, obviously a little bit of touring of the hotel of this, this.
Well, and then prison. Pompeii was in the morning.
Oh, Pompeii was the same day.
Yeah. Pompeii was the same day. So the train trip was about 3 hours.
Okay. That makes sense.
If I remember right. So we did Pompeii in the morning, then we went to the train station, Then we had the 3 hours. Then we got to the hotel and everybody got, their luggage and got situated. And then we had the welcome dinner, had a tour of the hotel. And that was that first day.
Perfect. All right. So the next day you've got a walking tour of Florence. Tell us about that. Had you been to Florence ever before?
We'd never been to Italy.
Oh gosh, I didn't even realize that. Yeah. So this was your first, well, not just your first adventure. I was gonna say your first adventure, but your first adventure in Italy, but not just Adventures by Disney adventure. Yeah.
Really our first adventure in Europe, because other than Michael was in the Netherlands this year, but prior to that, the only places we were airports in Europe because of our kids being adopted from Belarus.
Oh my gosh.
I've been in the German airport. I've been in the Poland airport. I've been in the, Germany, England, at Heathrow. But I had never been anywhere outside of an airport. So yeah, this was our first European adventure for sure.
Oh, Tracy, I didn't realize that you really hadn't spent time in Europe other than adopting
other than Belarus and Poland. Yeah. So we did a lovely walking tour. We got to see a ton of beautiful buildings, lots of history. We did the Palazzo Vecchio, which is behind us in that picture there. And the nice thing was the ABD guides knew all the great places to take pictures, and they took pictures. Now, we have not gotten our pictures yet. We got our video today, the slideshow at the end. We got that today. But we haven't gotten the actual photographs. But they were so good at, hey, we're all going to do a picture here. Like and they got every couple and every group. And, there was a couple mom and daughters that were traveling together. And so they were, getting pictures together. And so if I didn't want to worry about the photographs, I didn't have to, which was awesome.
That is one of the really nice things about Adventures by Disney, that your guides, they will take pictures as you're going, and then after the trip is over, they will upload. It does sometimes take a little bit of time because they've got to upload everything onto like a website, and they give you the link for that, and then everybody can download all the pictures. And really, it's like we're talking, probably 1,000 pictures or more, because they're taking pictures of everyone, and so you'll be able to get all of those pictures after the fact. So if there's something that you didn't capture yourself with your own phone, chances are they captured it. Not just like you, but even the sites, right? Like the David in the Palazzo in Florence.
I need to know, Tracy. I need to know how that lasagna looks like. I want to rip this lasagna off of the computer screen and eat it. It looks amazing.
It was,
and
I'm not even that big of a lasagna fan. Like I've never had the lasagna at Palo because I always get the chicken parm. Brian, you would have asked for more. It was that good.
It doesn't look like it has bechamel though. It doesn't look like it has bechamel. I don't know.
Yeah, it was so good. It was so good. And this was a place where we all went to eat lunch together. But I'm 99% sure we paid for this one. I don't think this one was included. Michael could jump in and tell me for sure, but I'm pretty sure this was one we had to pay for. Like, but we were all in the same room. They brought us the bread, hot bread. It was so good.
So big question here. You're in Italy, so wine's a big part of the vacation. I noticed lots of wine in the photos. Like, was there wine included with your meals as you went through as well, or did you have to pay for that separately?
So the places that the meal was included, yes. So like the different places that like when we get to the farm pictures, there was like a wine tasting, so that was all like included. This particular, what was I just had a thought about the lasagna was amazing. Oh, this was one of the places where they gave us a choice of what to order at this restaurant. And they said, order lasagna. And then the second choice was, you could order this, but we really highly recommend you order the lasagna. And then the third choice was just order the lasagna. And so I think everybody but two people ordered the lasagna, and there was not a complaint. It was that good. So,
nice.
But yeah, it was for this particular one. I think we did have to pay for the lasagna. Oh, lunch was included. Any drinks needed to pay for separately. Okay, that must have been an included one then.
Yeah, Michael has come into the chat and clarified that point. So yeah, and also echoed that the lasagna was amazing. So yes.
Yeah. Well, and as Tracy alluded to earlier, all of the breakfasts were included, but about half of the dinners and a couple of the lunches were included. So this is a mix of, meals included and meals not included. Right. So I will say your excursions, which is all the tours, that's all part of the ABD price, of course. That's the main thing that you're paying for, is of course all of the things that you're being taken to do. It's a little bit different than the river cruise, because the river cruise, obviously all the meals on the ship are included, and it's only whether or not meals off the ship are included. And so that's one of the differences between a land-based and a river cruise-based ABD. Okay, free time at the leather school. This is where you got a special purse with your initials. Is that right, Tracy?
That is right. So this is a special school where they teach younger people the art of the making of the leather purses and leather wallets and passport holders. It was a little bit difficult to find, but once we got there, we went up. It's a small area. It's up you go up like some stairs. But we got to watch a lady working on a strap. And then they had all these purses out, so you could like pick and choose it, what color, what style, picked a purse. And then they have people that actually will heat up this metal thing with your 3 initials in it and emboss the purse for you. So I got my purse embossed. I was very excited. That was also on my Italy bucket list. So leather sandals check, pizza check, wine check, leather purse check. I'm good.
Yes. They're basically branding your initials into the leather. Now, this is such a cool thing. You sent us some photos of this ahead of time, or I think while you were there. Tell us how does one get wine out of a wine window in Tuscany?
Well, so the story behind it is back in the plague days that they put these windows in to be able to put things in and out of their homes without having to step out of their homes. Now these places are bars and restaurants. And then during COVID, they kind of reawakened. And so basically this particular little archway has a wooden door on it. And so I walk up, and there's a video on our Instagram, if you want to watch it, where you ring the bell, and then somebody from the inside opens the little wooden door, and you tell them what you want, and they get it for you, and you pay for it, and they hand you the wine. This particular place, he actually saw that we were filming, and he said, "Do you want me to take a picture of you from inside?" And I was like, absolutely. So I handed him my phone, and he took a ton of pictures and videos of like going up close and backing up. He was so sweet. And so that was also a bucket list kind of thing. Like I needed to find a wine window. So it was so fun to try it and to see other people do it as well.
I got to tell you, Sam, that may beat ringing the bell at Club 33 for me if you can just ring a little thing and then wine comes out. That's
and
amazing.
Wine appears.
It's amazing. It's amazing. All right, so this looks like a Tuscan steak here, it looks like, perhaps?
Yeah. So this was another time where we actually had seen this restaurant, and then we asked our guides if they would make us a reservation. So this is a Trattoria Oste? I don't know how to say it.
Dell'Oste.
Anyway.
Dell'Oste.
Yeah, Dell'Oste. What I will say is if you're trying to eat high protein, Italy is not the place to go. Protein is difficult to come by. And so we had walked past this place, and we asked our guide about it. And she was like, "Oh, yeah, it's a great place." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah." And in the window, they had steaks that were, 2-3 inches thick in the window. And so we were like, yeah, that's where we want to go. So this is a steak Florentine. They brought it pre-cut and on a sizzling plate. I actually have video of it sizzling on our table. And it was probably one of the best, if not the best steak I've ever had.
Yeah. It looks amazing.
Well, the one exception to the protein thing in Italy is actually Florence, because Florence is not known for pizza and pasta. Florence is known for
we didn't see many
steak.
Pizza places.
Yeah, well, because Naples obviously is the home of pizza, so you spent time in places that have both. But yes, not all of Italy, but Florence is definitely known for steak. Well, you can find steak at almost any restaurant in Florence. But it's not the same as finding like I don't know, grilled chicken and things like that. Yeah.
We also learned from our Palo server that, the interior coast is known for lots of great seafood. So, a little protein there too.
If you like seafood, that's great.
All right. Siena, Italy.
Siena. This was a walking journey. I don't know if you could really tell from that picture, but everything in Siena was uphill or downhill, depending on which direction you were going. But it was a great story. So Siena is a place that they have like little towns. They call them contradas. And each contrada can put a horse into this horse race called, let me find the right name for it so I don't mess it up. Palio de Siena. And there's 17 contradas. They can take 10 horses, and then they take basically I would call it a square, except it's circular, like their city square. And they put a bunch of like clay and dirt in it. And then they run this horse race, and they go around like 3 times. And whichever horse crosses the finish line first, with or without a jockey on it, the jockey's ditched, it doesn't matter. As long as the horse gets there first, they win. And then their contrada gets to put the flags up. So if you see in that one picture, there's like a flag from the side of the building. Each contrada is like an animal. So there's like, the she-wolf contrada, and there's the dragon contrada, and there's the ram contrada. And so then if your horse wins this horse race that happens every year, then you get to put your flag out in your contrada for a whole year. So it was a fascinating story, and it was fun to hear about, we got to see like how far back it dated, and see like they get a special painting done when they win it that goes into this museum. And that was a really fun one, but it was a lot of hills, a lot of climb on that place. So, awesome. And we saw obviously the chapel there too. So, and then that day we went to, we got on a bus and we went to Tuscany to Sarah's farm, which is where we did the wine tasting. And this was another farm similar to the one we went to in Naples, where they make their own olive oil, they make their own balsamic vinegar, they make their own, all of the wine was theirs. And so we were sitting outdoors under umbrellas, these big, beautiful picnic tables. And then we got, an antipasta plate, and then a salad, and then multiple pastas. The ravioli was ridiculous. And I don't generally eat ravioli, but it was so good. We got 4 different kinds of wine. They talked to us about how they, run their farm and things like that. She actually has a cookbook. And then, so they had cookbooks that you could buy there as well. But the scenery is obviously, it gives you that real Tuscan countryside feel. And that's what we were sitting out and looking at the whole time we were eating.
Yeah. I feel like that's like a classic view. You looking over at the vineyards is like, that's what you sort of picture when you think of, I want to go to Tuscany, right? Well, here's another amazing city in Tuscany that you got to go to, Lucca. Brian and I have a special affinity for Lucca because we got to go 20 years ago when we toured around Italy, and we spent just a single day at Lucca, but we got taken around by a gentleman who's actually from Lucca, who was a friend of Brian's dad, and who took us to this amazing wine store, took us to a bakery, walked us around the city a little bit. And we sat on this very wall. So that Lucca is the city, is a walled in city, and you can bike ride or walk or at the top of the wall and sort of look around, look over the little city in the middle. It's also known, as Michael put in the chat, the city of 100 churches, because there's like tons of little tiny churches all throughout the city. But what did you guys think of Lucca? I just can't say enough about it because I just love it so much.
It was so beautiful. And honestly, I couldn't wrap my head around how we were going to ride a bike on top of a wall. Because to me, I was thinking, a wall. And then they told us about how somebody was coming to conquer all the cities in Italy, and Lucca kept adding to their wall and made it bigger and bigger so they couldn't be conquered. So they're the only walled city left. And so I don't know how, I can't tell you how wide it was, but it was wide enough for cars to drive through if they would allow it. We ended up, it's a 2.5 mile loop. So we biked and we did it twice. So we got our 5 miles in that day, on top of all the walking. But it was absolutely beautiful. Like just the area and the buildings. And it was funny. Our tour guide from that area said, we are known as the city of 100 churches. This is they showed us like one church. This is number 1, only 99 to go.
Yeah, I remember from Luca that one of the stories is it's known for its iconic. There's an iconic tower in town that has a tree growing on top of it, and the story went the towers were the signs of your wealth, and so the higher your tower, the more money you had, and they couldn't build higher than obviously the one of the churches, like main church in town, and so that landowner, being upset, planted a tree on top of his tower and allowed it to grow higher than the church.
I feel like we heard that story too.
Yeah. It's kind of a famous story in Luca. Yeah. All right. So you had pizza by the kilogram. Tracy, I'm going to move us along here a little bit. You had pizza by the kilogram.
Okay. Go ahead. I just thought that was funny. You could buy pizza by the kilogram.
The obligatory leaning tower of Pisa. The obligatory leaning tower of Pisa photo.
Yes. So that was the next day. No, that was the same day as Luca. I'm sorry. Same day as Luca.
It's really close.
They took us there. And fortunately we had tickets for like a little train to take us actually to this area, because it's quite a walk from where the buses drop you off and where the actual tower is. And then they took us through the baptistry. And this was the place that we had to make sure we wore pants and wore something over our shoulders, because we did go into the cathedral there and spent some time in the cathedral. And this was the only place that we had to do that. There was another cathedral earlier in Naples that we went in. And when I asked, they were like, oh, no, you don't have to worry about that here. But this particular one in Pisa, we did. And then, of course, they took us over, told us the story about the Leaning Tower, how they try and fix it every so many years, to keep it from continuing, because it continues to lean. And then they have to like kind of put it back up a little ways. And then, of course, they sat on the ground and took pictures of us all holding, and some of our adventurers with us did some really funny stuff with this. It was, the pictures are going to be so good when we get them, because they did some fun, like one couple, like he held her up on his knees, like he was kind of squatting and she was like standing up on him, trying to push it over. And there were just some really cute ones that people, one guy was leaning up against his wife. She was holding it up and he was like texting, like he wasn't like no care in the world, so there were some good ones. And then our farewell dinner was within walking distance of our hotel. And it was Napoleon's sister's palace in Florence.
Oh, cool.
And it was one of the coolest rooms I've ever seen. I feel like there was something about 7 mirrors. There's these giant mirrors everywhere. Everything was gold, and the chandeliers, and the dinner was really good. And then they had some entertainment come in, and they sang some Italian songs, and they did some fun things with some of the adventurers. And so that was kind of, the end of our trip. After that was all finished, they took us into a different room and we watched our slideshow with all of the pictures that, they had taken, not all of them, but the pictures that they'd taken. They put a slideshow together. And so that was our last night. And then the next day, everybody went their magical ways.
Yeah. Well, one of the lovely things about when you finish your adventure on Adventures by Disney is they have already arranged your transportation to wherever you're going, right? So like, I mean, ground transportation, right? They're not paying for your flight, but they will arrange your transportation from the hotel.
They will if you ask them to and you pay them.
Well, but if you booked your flight to Paris, right? You had that ready to go, but they arrange your transportation on that leg from your hotel to Paris, unless you're staying in wherever city that you're staying in, and then they'll arrange it later. But it's a really nice benefit. Tracy, I'm curious, like, what's something you wish you knew about Adventures by Disney maybe before going that now, maybe?
I guess the two things that I would say is don't stress about it, because Disney's got you. like everything. Like we go into a museum and then Sylvia'd be there handing out tickets, or David made sure that anybody who was maybe not as fast as the rest of us was staying with the group and, walked behind them. So they've got you. Like if you want to experience something like this, where like for me to plan this ourselves would have been so much work. Poor Chelsea would have been exhausted. And so it was so nice to just go, and I didn't have to think about any of it. It was taken care of. Here's your ticket for the train. Here's your ticket for the museum. Here's where we're going to dinner. Here's a place that we can get you a reservation. They took care of everything. And I think the other thing to know is when they say it's an adventure by Disney, it's an adventure. I mean, we did, swam in the Mediterranean Sea, biked on the wall in Lucca. It's not a sit down, lay by the pool kind of trip. It's very active. And we had some people who had some mobility issues that were on the trip with us, and they did great. But there's definitely like some uneven surfaces. We did a lot of walking. And so for somebody who maybe can't do a lot of, like, we did not see a wheelchair anywhere in any of the cities. So like, when you go to Disney World and you see people with mobility scooters or people pushing in wheelchairs, like we didn't, and not just in our group, I mean, anywhere on the streets, we just didn't see it. So, take into account your audience, take into account who's going with you, and can they walk these distances, and can they, handle the amount of time, because there was some bus time, there was some train time, which was downtime, and there were pictures of certain people napping on the train. I won't mention any names, but it wasn't me. So just, know your audience, know who's going on the trip with you, but understand if you're a Disney cruise person who is used to the relaxing and the sitting by the pool or sitting on the beach, it's not that kind of vacation. And as long as you go into it knowing that, which it helped me to know, like when you guys talked about your riverboat trip, that was the same kind of a thing. Like you get up every morning and you're getting off the boat and you're doing your thing. It helped me to know that ahead of time because it helped me prepare. I think if I had not been prepared for that, it could have been a very different vacation for me. But I had that prepared, so I was able to kind of wrap my head around, this is not going to be me sitting by the pool all day kind of a thing.
So there are two questions in the chat I want to pose, and I have one last question before we wrap up for the evening. In the chat, Ed has asked two questions. One is, what was one site you wish you spent a little more time at and one a little less time at? And then also, were there any places that you visited with ABD where you felt like you were getting what I'll call special access, or someplace that you only...
Or premium access.
Access. You felt you had access only because ABD as opposed to planning a trip by yourself is the question.
We definitely got into the museums and stuff. We didn't have to wait in line. So when we went to a museum, there was like a special, like our guide walked up and said, hey, this is my people. And, go all the way back to the paddle of power. And then we walked in. So we definitely had that in multiple museums. I think at Pisa as well, we kind of made our way to that little train and got on all together where there were other people waiting. So those kinds of things were definitely, taking over a room in a restaurant that was bustling otherwise. We had a whole room. So that was those kinds of things. Places that I would have liked more time.
Or less, or places you felt like they just spent a little too much less. Yeah.
Honestly, gosh, that's a hard question. I feel like every place we went, we were either doing something, like we were in a museum, but we weren't there too long. Again, I said, I'm not a history person. I'm not a museum person. And so they hit just the right amount of like, this is the statue of David. Okay. I know what that is. So I can compute this. This is a painting, that Michelangelo did, his very first painting, kind of a thing. I wasn't overwhelmed by the history and like not caring about, they're talking about all this stuff that I don't understand. I don't know what it is. I feel like they did that very well. Again, if you're somebody who's really into that, you're going to want to go back and spend more time. So, but for me, it was kind of the right amount, really. And the only thing I guess I would say is the first hotel we had a pool on the rooftop, and I would have liked to have had a little time by the pool. That's really, I mean, really about it, honestly. I think everything else was, we had a break in the bus, so we were sitting for a little bit before we walked another 3 miles, or we had a break on the train for a couple of hours so you could chill and, edit photos or videos or whatever. So overall, I would say for me personally, everything was just right. It was just right.
So I have one last question to ask before Sam takes us out for the evening. And that is just, Adventures by Disney, not an inexpensive vacation. Did you find value in Adventures by Disney? Would you do another land-based ABD in the future?
I would. And I think there was a slide on that, but I know we're running late. So we definitely would. And I would use it for places that I wouldn't feel comfortable making plans again. Like I know there's an ABD like out in California that would get you into like Walt Disney Studios and all that kind of stuff. I don't know that I would use it for that, for the price, because I don't like, that's something I feel more comfortable that I might be able to do on my own. But places like Italy or France or Switzerland, places like Asia, like I would 100%, if, we wanted to go to Asia and do like Tokyo Disney or, any of those kinds of places, I would do an ABD because I felt so safe. And that to me is a value for sure. And the guides were so good. All of them. David and Sylvia were fantastic. Like Sylvia's like my new sister, my little sister. She's such a sweetheart, and she taught me andiamo, which is let's go.
I have to say they do such a good job at interviewing and selecting just the right personalities for these adventure guides positions. I don't know like where they find them, but they're all just gems, right? Like I know you loved your 2 guides. We loved our 5 guides on our river cruise. We love Rebecca, who was a former DCL cast member and is now an adventure guide. So like they just do such a great job. Well, we've got to wrap up the show. So we'll say thank you, of course, to Tracy for joining us today. We'll say thank you to Chelsea from My Path Unwinding Travel for also joining us at the top of the show. We so appreciate both of you coming on to chat with us about this amazing trip to Italy. And we will be back next week. We will be talking about Disney Cruise Line. Don't worry. We ventured out of Disney Cruise Line for the evening to talk about Adventures by Disney because we love to cover that. We think it's, Disney Cruise Line adjacent. But we're going to be staying over in Europe. And we're going to be talking to Letitia, who is Mouse Mamas on Instagram. She does a ton of posting all over the socials about mostly Walt Disney World tips and tricks. But this was her first Disney cruise. It was supposed to be a British Isles cruise, but it actually turned into a Norway and Belgium cruise. So find out next week on what happens when you think you're going to the British Isles, but instead you end up going to Norway and Belgium. So we'll hear from Letitia about her first Disney cruise. Next week's show, we'll be back 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, our regular time on Monday. Of course, we'll have recorded shows coming out in the meantime. But thank you all for watching live. Thank you all for watching and listening after on the recorded show. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, and don't forget to be following us on all the socials and give us those 5 stars on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. And with that, I will just say thank you and good night to everyone out there.
And a big thank you to Tracy for spending some time with us this evening.
Thanks, guys.
Well, thanks to everyone out there for listening this week. We really, really appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you can keep getting great content from us every week. In fact, twice a week we publish shows. So be sure to hit the subscribe button to get all of those great episodes. And if you want to watch us live, we have a live show now every week, Monday nights, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern over on youtube.com/DCL Duo. So be sure to head over and check that out. If you want to help support the show, be sure to hit those 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And if you leave us a written review, a 5-star written review, we will read read it at the top of one of our main episodes, so please head over there and hit those 5 stars. Of course, you can also help support the show by supporting our fabulous show sponsor, My Path Unwinding Travel. If you want to book your next Disney vacation, head over to mypathunwinding.com/DCL Duo or email them at dclduo@mypathunwinding.com so they know we sent you their way. If you've got questions or you'd like to connect with us, the best way to do that is to head over to DCLduo.com. It's got links to all of our things, full catalog of the podcast episodes, including a searchable catalog for the podcast, links off to our vlog, a link to our Etsy store where we sell some fun fan-inspired magnets, link to our Patreon if you'd like to help directly support the show each and every month. Just head over to the website or patreon.com/DCLduo. Also has a way for you to sign up for our Substack newsletter that we're hoping to start really pumping out monthly here at least, and a few blog articles that we've written. So DCLduo.com is the best way to connect with us. You can also, of course, email us at info@DCLduo.com or reach out to us on our voicemail line at 402-413-5590. That's 402-413-5590. The DCL Duo podcast is not affiliated with Disney Cruise Line, the Disney Company, or the Disney family of theme parks. The views expressed on the show are solely those of the individuals on the podcast and in no way reflect the views of the Disney Company or Disney Cruise Line. If you have questions about a Disney cruise or a Disney vacation, please contact the great folks over at My Path Unwinding Travel or Disney directly or your own travel agent. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time for another fabulous adventure with the DCL Duo. Good night.